May the grace of God be felt this morning. Good to see you here. And my prayer is that we could all have come with an open heart and be filled with something to take home and apply and live add to life. Last Sunday, I had the privilege of visiting a relatively new church in the Kitchener, Ontario area, and I was very, very blessed to, first of all, to have the opportunity to go to a financial stewardship seminar and then meet with this church. Every time you see a young church start up, you wish them well. And 4 years ago, Marcela and I were there, and we spent a good time there. And it seems so new and feeble in a sense, or weak. And you often wondered, how are they faring? And so it was very good to see that there's life and there's courage, and they have survived these whatever many years, 4 to 5 years. On my way home from there, or on my traveling time, and here's where I take an example that I wanted to apply to our message today. We live in a very complete world here in America when it comes to traveling. I was able to have lunch and a fellowship after lunch, get into my car, and in the nowadays life that we live, there's likely a voice in the car. You're not totally alone. The voice in the car is by some people called the GPS system. It tells you where and when to turn, and in this case, even control the speed of my vehicle. And so as I travel this very busy road, the 401, some of you know that road. It's the busiest road in our country. And I enjoy this. This is Sunday afternoon. The weather is in my liking. There's lots and lots of traffic, and it all goes in the same direction. I'm just one of us all, okay? So it kind of starts to create some camaraderie when you notice that with this vehicle, I've been side by side now for maybe an hour. And yet, it being an unfamiliar road, very heavy traffic, we all very carefully, we listen. In the nowadays, we listen to the voice, or we watch the signs, and we want to get to our destination. We don't just follow and say, well, let's just go where most of the traffic goes. We try to be alert. Even though we are very considerate of all the cars alongside of the road, yet we have a goal and we have a destination to get to. Sometimes we feel good with finding that most of the vehicles alongside us are also going to the same place as we are. That makes it really nice. Other times we start to realize that as we make one exit and maybe another and eventually one more, we're not on a busy road at all anymore. We're kind of alone. These are the times when you, if you are like me, you start to wonder, did I perhaps make a wrong turn? Why am I so alone where I thought many people would go? In this case, I was going to the airport. Excuse me. It is in those times when it's wise for us to check the map or to listen to the GPS and ask whether I'm on the right road. And then when you have confirmation, then it is only wise to keep going. The destination today in our message, or the topic today, is the well-trained family, or your home. Excuse me. My throat will eventually cooperate. I have been encouraged through the last sometimes already to speak more on family life or home life. And I'm starting a message that's going to be a two-part message, so I want to do only the first part today. So whenever my turn will come up again to preach, I plan to do the next time around. That's going to be in the New Year sometime, okay? The well-trained home or the family, as we look through scriptures, it's sometimes difficult to find the right, it's sometimes difficult to find the right scriptures to add to your message. But nonetheless, as we go through scriptures, we do not doubt that the home is a very, very close part to God's heart. Yet you could sit today and you could defend and say that this message that we are going to have today is not spiritual at all. And I'm okay. Nonetheless, we have to look at a few things. If we would separate Christianity and a well-trained family, meaning that you would be Christian but not well-trained, not well-behaved, but you would be born again, you would have a clear testimony, your blessings would be only short-lived. Indeed, I find it very, very encouraging or moving when I think of the Old Testament days and when Israel was led out of Egypt. That's very close to the equivalent of when a person becomes born again. Many, many resemblances there. You would look into the books of Moses, for example, and you find this interesting, how many times in the books of Moses it says something like, when you would look at a new chapter, you would see that not all chapters, but many chapters, they start with words like, and the Lord spake unto Moses, or the Lord said unto Moses. 150 times in the books of Moses alone, where that's how it starts. And then you keep reading, and in some of those things that you read, it doesn't seem very spiritual at all. But they were very important to God enough that we can still read them. A lot of the other things were very, very relative to their spiritual life. I want you to turn with me to a very familiar chapter. You know this by memory. Perhaps you just want to follow along by memory. Psalm 127, verse 3. I wanted to bring your thoughts around these 3 verses, and then we want to get into our 9-topic message, but we will have only half of that today. Psalm 127, verse 3. And I see some of you young parents, you're walking back in the entrance of the church with your little one, meaning that you're trying to soothe him, and so he probably arrived only recently. So, and some of you are expecting a little one. That is a good thing. Psalm 127 verse 3 has something to say about that. And it says, lo, children are an heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. That's pretty simple to understand. We're married, we're happy, and the Lord leads, directs it. We have babies, and we doesn't take all that long. We have a family, and we're just right in it. And life can sometimes be really full of good things, and then we call that the fruit of the womb, or we call that the heritage of the Lord. So the Bible gives us a very, very positive view. Verse 4. As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. Arrows, in the nowadays, we're not talking arrows mostly. Would be talking ammunition, bullets, and that gives you the idea. Many of you perhaps have spent some time in hunting in the last some weeks. And I'm pretty sure if you're a wise hunter, you knew you better take more than just one bullet with you. You might need that second one more than you did the first one, perhaps. This gives us that idea. It would be sure nice to have as arrows are in the hand. Oh, that's verse 5. Happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them. That's where I was heading with my ammunition. They shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with the enemies in the gate. All my life, especially in my adult life, I have cherished these verses. When we started with our family, Marcel and me, many times we have looked at these verses. You know, it does as well. Children are an heritage of the Lord. This is simply God's ways, and this is the way it's supposed to be. It's heavenly. It is good to have many children, and there is a destination, or there's an aim to have. I want us to just, for the sake of our today's topic, I want us to just give it some thought. Now we have, say, a family, and it doesn't matter, but I'll just say you have 5 children. Doesn't matter if you have 2 or if you have 10, it's the same difference. But you have 5 children, you are a born-again mom and dad. So you know, and you have a relationship with God, and in that sense, it's really good. In fact, when we think of mission work, we often think about these things. We want to lead people to Christ, and very often that is where the reports come back, and we say, somebody has found the Lord, and we all rejoice, and an amen. We should rejoice. Now, let's say we have a converted home. Mom and dad have found the Lord. They have 5 children, but the training and the child training, the child discipline, the whole family life stays untrained. It stays neglected, or whatever you want to call it. What would this Christian home look like? And what would it look like if we had a church full of people like we are, a lot of families here today, and we would all be Christian, but all untrained? It could become pretty dramatic. And I think it would be fairly easy for us to conclude that the future would look rather discouraging. And so that's part of the heart of the message today. It's not the idea to step on toes to make somebody feel guilty. If you feel that you are in a family situation where things are troubling to you, they're not successful, this is not the intent to now step on the toes and make somebody feel guilty. But much rather, it's my heart that it could serve as tools or as ideas. Like I said, I have 9 subjects. I'm not even sure why I came up with 9, but I thought that was just what it was, so I wouldn't add a 10th just for the sake of a 10. My number 1 point, keeping the relationships in the family. Keeping, I mean you, now that we keep what is good and we add to that. Why I use the word keeping here is I want you as a husband and wife to look back, when did this all start? Do you remember that? Especially those of us that are married. When we got started, this thing started in a sweet, in an attractive, and in a loving way most often. We found each other attractive and we loved each other, and there came the time when, as a boyfriend and girlfriend, we found out I would just desire to get married to this, what is now my spouse. So it's good for us to think about our start from time to time. You might say there wasn't all good, and I'm fine with that, but there was a good start in every one of our homes. Even though we might not have all known the Lord and didn't even do it in a Christian way, but it was started with a good thing. So we got to keep it good. Of course, as time went on, we soon found out as a couple, perhaps, that we had differences in opinions. And perhaps, God forbid, but our differences of opinions sometimes turned into an argument. And from an argument, we created pain, and we created withdrawal between the two of us. Until, and here's what we need to do in order to keep the relationship, we need to be able to humbly repent. Take ownership of our mistakes and be back at the good part. We could carry on this subject for a long time, but your marriage, our marriages are definitely under attack by Satan and we will have to put effort into keeping it in good shape. Never allow it to pass your mind to think that it wasn't God's will or that we are not meant for each other. You are meant for each other, and God can make out of your marriage a very, very blessed home and build a strong and a healthy family on it or with it. As time went on, babies came, and we soon found out the baby was completely dependent, totally dependent on us. The baby was sweet. We were happy to see it, and we thought it was a good thing, as the Bible says. It didn't take all that long, though. We found out, that sweet little baby was stubborn, was completely undisciplined, and needed a lot of care now on top of, needed a lot of direction and perhaps discipline on top of physical care. Amongst in all of this, we find though, and I like this is what I mostly enjoyed about babies in our days, back in those days, was that the young children, they have a way of admiring mom and dad like nobody else does. You know, they can admire you, they esteem you so high. In fact, in the baby, you are the highest thing on earth or in life. You are the God in that sense to the baby. They don't know of anything bigger and stronger and more admirable than you as a parent. So again, the start was good. Okay? We have so much good, and we need to keep it that way. We loved the babies. We loved them as they grew up and became teenagers. And as the teenagers came along, we found out, our young children, they have become very smart, and are perhaps finding that in their own lives that they have become as smart as mom and dad, or in some cases like we were when we were teenagers. Now we had become much smarter than mom and dad. What a good life to be in. What a good time to have your children during these days when they are so smart. Boy, that can be so interesting. This is where it comes to a continual commitment from us as parents that we love them. Just love those smart boys and girls. They are such a good future and so much potential. We as parents, of course, we are not calling ourselves smart at this time anymore because we have ran out of our own smarts. I hope we have, and hopefully by now have become wise. And if we are wise, we know that as parents, we don't get into arguments and we don't fight. We don't make unpleasant atmospheres in our homes because we have outgrown the smarts and, like I said, have become wise. We do listen to our teenagers or our young people. We stay calm, or we need to stay calm. Did you ever know the verse in Matthew chapter 5, verse 5 speaks directly to child training? In fact, the Beatitudes, almost all of them, can be very directly be applied to a well-trained family life. And but meek, I love that word. I know Brother Lannis had years ago a message on the word meek. And meek is when you have power in control. And so when you lose control, you get angry or you get discouraged, you flare up or you do something unpleasant. But to be meek is you are in power but controlled. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Now, I'm not exactly sure what Jesus had in mind when he said that they shall inherit the earth, but nonetheless, the blessing is tremendous. This is parents. We have the power, you have the authority, but you have no need to get out of control. Lovingly, meekly, with meekness, love your children. Remember, it's most often in the way how we respond where mistakes or pain is caused. It's not the incident itself. In a positive way, let's prevent immaturity or unpleasantness from taking over. Stay firm, but be friendly, be patient, and love your children. Be compassionate. You know, they need that. They need that feeling that you as a parent, you are compassionate. It doesn't matter what the situation is. As parents, we can be taken along this path of arguing, of immaturity, or that kind of an atmosphere. Stay firm and don't get along. Stay mature. Stay grown up. Be wise. Each day, let me tell you this, each day, make sure you end the day in a positive way and with blessings. Very, very important. In a well-trained home, we don't pull yesterday's tension into today. It ends and we start over. Jesus does it that way as well. His mercies are new every morning. And that means something. We don't wake up and need to feel, oh, I messed up yesterday so bad, I'm just continuing on. Keep the relationships in a strong way. Keeping relationships in the family is a big, big part for success. Let me go to our point number 2. I have these points just in the order that they came to my mind. They have no significance in what order they bring. Next point is to watch for who is the influencer. I spoke about all the cars that are riding alongside with us as we are on these busy roads. It came to my mind, we're all kind of just going in the same direction. We don't really care much, we're just all going in the same direction. As a sheep farmer, and I know I've used this example in the past, but sheep are one of the dumbest animals, and that's why I need to have those, because there's so much to learn from them, but they are easily influenced, very easily, and they just blindly follow influence. No second thoughts, just follow. Influencers to our families need to be watched very, very carefully. You know what? Look at the little children. You will see that there's a little silly child, and he's a child, and that's why he's silly. And your child easily gets influenced and starts to become silly as well. Nothing but normal. It's just what life is all about. As parents, you step in and you direct things away from the silliness. Nonetheless, if we don't keep an eye on this, silliness or immaturity, or a silly and an immature influence can actually take a whole family down. It can actually take a big part of a whole group down. It's sometimes strange, or I think we call it funny, when you look at groups of people and how so many of them have succumbed to some kind of a silly or of an immature way of life, whether they show it in their way of how they have haircuts or what kind of beards or what kind of fashions they follow. It sometimes is almost amusing to watch that, how big groups of people get sidetracked, or I don't know if it's sidetracked, they just get onto a track. It's influence. We just follow something. Or maybe it's the loud opinion of another, maybe of an immature friend that your children have, and he's very loud and speaks the loudest, is more aggressive, and he drives his point. And you will find as parents that your young children are being influenced by a loud opinion, maybe from school, maybe from the friends. Who is the influencer? Or God forbid, but maybe it's a gossiper, somebody that's willing to gossip and gossips about another youth friend or family, and all of a sudden we realize this influence is coming into our home. Parents, let's take a stand. Let's not allow that. Maybe it's the peer pressure, the strong peer pressure from our own circle that can be a very, very big influencer, where all of a sudden you as families realize that we cannot quite control our home anymore because the influence from outside. It's very important that you keep checking the GPS. Are we still getting in the right direction? What if everybody has a phone, but your 16-year-old still doesn't? You know, We live in a time when many people have been completely blindly influenced, just like the sheep have, and they just follow the idea that we all need to have this, when 15 years ago, none of us needed it. Isn't that an amazing thing? Apply wisdom. Social media has a way of influencing us in a good way, but also in a bad way. Are we controlled by it? Have we control, or are we undisciplined when it comes to social media interaction? I try to teach myself, or practice this, but also pass it on to my children. Is there a discipline in myself or in you? When do you stop browsing on the internet on a regular, open evening or day? Back in the days, it was not unfamiliar when I grew up that there were other men that had the same problem as some people say that I have. And that is that they would just visit, and they would not get done visiting till way past due time. And there were people, they said, if they were more disciplined, they would catch on. It's time to go home now. What about your and my doing when we are by ourselves? Is there still discipline in the amount of time that we use on our phones or social media? See, these things are simply taking good homes down into the drain nowadays. Or perhaps sharing things on social media about life, about ourselves. Things I would never share otherwise. Or I allow this all to be my influencer. You know what? We live in a time where I can be so influenced by my gadget that I become a stranger to my circle. Keep a close watch. 1 Corinthians 15:33, back in those days, they were dealing with influence, and this was the warning. Be not deceived. I like that word. I mean, it's not a good word, but I like what it is. Evil communication corrupt good manners. The word deceiving means that one day you will find out, oh, we didn't get to our destination. That's a deception. Somewhere along the line, we made the wrong exit. You know what? Evil communications will do that. We end up elsewhere as what we had thought. Who are your children's friends? Have you ever thought about this? What does a 13-year-old teach another 13-year-old? Likely there's good things. Here's why it's important to have a healthy family life where we catch on. What are the influences? Learn to stand alone as a family. Take that proper exit regardless who else takes the exit. Watch who are the heroes in our homes. Who are we talking about? Who are we influenced by? Who are the main characters in conversation in our homes, among our children? Have these become hockey players, politicians, otherwise perhaps ungodly characters? You know what? That's deception. It's going to take us to the wrong exit. Let's watch the influence. I'm coming to the third point. The attitudes. In a well-disciplined home, we can only imagine that the attitudes in this home are also in subjection to God's will. Just imagine what a born-again Christian home would look like if Dad would come home and Dad would be frustratedly, negatively expressing his feelings. He's born again though. Or what would a good Christian home look like when Mom is spending a lot of time just negatively bursting out, just bubbling out negatively? I'm asking us the question, Do you think that a Christian home like that could really prosper? We do not need to come to this family with the gospel trying to bring them to Christ. They already know Christ. We are becoming practical this morning. The attitudes. Now, we like to think all about the little children, and that's very important. But let's start with mom and dad. Are you sure that your attitude is honoring God? You know what? Attitude's something we just have by ourselves. I caught a statement that a dear brother made recently, and he said he had sanctified his attitude. That indicated to me that, unknowns to me, but that he would have felt that he had an attitude that wasn't sanctified, and he needed to sanctify it. Take it to the cross. You know what? As mom and dad, that might be something where Mrs. Wesley, as we heard, when she buried herself under that shawl, you know what? Maybe she was sanctifying an attitude that she had formed. We need to have a sanctified attitude and then train the children to have it likewise. Obedience to parents without grudge, without grumbling. As more grown-ups, we need to be able to submit to the authority and structure. Whether it is by just playing a game. You know what? I enjoy playing games. Us as a church family, perhaps we're playing some kind of a game, summertime, and there's a youngster who's been appointed as the ump or the umpire, as they call it, who says whether it's fair or foul, and he has that, and he doesn't know how to do that, and he calls the fair a foul and the foul a fair. You know what? It's all important to me that I, as a player, now submit to what he said, because he has been appointed by somebody to be that. As soon as we question that, the fun is over. It's an attitude of submission. Be very, very careful not to allow negativity or selfishness in your homes, lovers of your own opinion. And then with that follows gossip, and that goes hand in hand with downgrading our own self. Oh, parents and homes, a Christian home shouldn't do that. You don't downgrade. We are just the Kornelsens. And you know what? We are just, no. That makes everybody in your home a victim. And victim mentality leads to more victim. Somebody else needs to become the victim to me. And we're just the lesser one. This kind of a mind atmosphere is a perfect ground to grow unbelief, rebellion, and perhaps riding along on others secretly or even openly blaming others for my misfortune. I'm expecting more and more from others. Let's be aware of the attitude, but focus on positiveness. So I need to move on here. Colossians chapter 3, verse 1. You know, that's one of my favorite verses. Let's just be a totally negative person, just completely buried in ourselves, and go to Colossians chapter 3, verse 1, just for an instant. And then as a Christian, home, read this and apply this. So we are in a negative mode. God forbid, but if we were in a negative mode and we would say, if ye then be risen with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ sitteth on the right hand of God. And a negative thinker has to right there and then stop, because he cannot do that. You would have to find some way around that verse as if that does not exist. You cannot apply this verse while you're negative. You have to become positive before you can apply this verse. Or in other words, this verse is going to make you positive. That's why it has a very, very direct impact on attitudes. Verse 2, set your affection on things above and not on things on the earth. You know what? Try to do that while you try to be negative. You can't. You have to change an attitude. With this, we're starting to serve others. And we see ourselves as capable of contributing, because now we are inspired from above. We have become positive. The obstacles that we have in our life, God forbid that we would allow them to become obstacles of discouragement, but rather an obstacle, I'll say it this way, always see an obstacle as an opportunity. That's the Christian way. Dwelling on the good things that we have. You know what I talked about before, ending the day in a good way. You know, sometimes as families or as homes, we should simply do that. At the end of the day, we talk about the many good things. There's always good things to see. There's always good things happening in your life. You have always things around you that are good. Always, always, always. And it's good for us to know that. It drives the thankfulness. I think we heard about that from Burton there this morning. We need to see ourselves as blessed. It creates an atmosphere of growth. I see my time is up and we have only made it 3 points. So we will carry on. Next time around, we want to talk about respectable behavior and polite behavior. And we want to talk about how important is it to be ordered in your home. And we have hospitality and maintaining physical health. And lastly, financial stewardship. God bless you.